The following has been paid for by the Rage You Nerds.
Welcome to Rage You Nerds. I am Mr. CAC, but you can call me Chris. And joining me like he does on Wednesdays that are usually Tuesdays, but just pretend like today's Tuesday, I have my lovely nerd friend, Reno. Reno, welcome, buddy.
Hello.
Welcome.
Hi, friend.
Hi, Friod. Let's get rid of that.
Baby back.
Yeah.
Ribs.
So right now, Reno, for this segment, we're going to do overall thoughts of the episode. So your overall reaction to the episode. Episode 3, Power Broker. Big, broad gesture, sweeping thoughts. How did you feel about this episode?
Pretty good episode. Really had a lot of things happening in this episode.
Yeah.
It was almost like some things happened, and they happened so quickly that if you weren't paying attention, you could have missed it.
You're not wrong.
but it was a really good episode. I actually found out more about it after I watched it and started watching some other people saying, "Oh, hey, I've watched this 15 times. Look at this that you missed," you know?
Yeah.
Like,
there's a lot. Again, there's a department in Marvel that just sits here and fact checks everything. And the way they keep everything so connected, only few moments of where things kind of get retconned a little bit is nice. I love Zemo's mask. I love Zemo in this.
oh yeah.
But so overall thoughts,
Like-
good episode, a lot of action,
episode,
a lot of
I
new
loved
stuff.
it. Yeah.
For me, personally, I found this to be my favorite episode thus far.
I agree. Like, especially when we get into the meat and potatoes of the episode and like get into Madrapore and all that, like
Well,
it starts to really get good.
hey, funny you should say that.
Ho.
Okay, so Madrapore is not only a heavily involved location or a scene for this episode, but it is our first Marvel cinematic introduction to the fictionalized Southeast Asian country of Madripoor. And let's go ahead, let's throw this out right quick. Disclaimer, we are very aware that Madripoor is a fictitious Southeastern Asian country that in this episode barely has, if any, Asian characters. We get that. We assume it'll be addressed at some point, and maybe they'll course correct, but we're going to sidestep that, right or wrong, and focus in on the story elements of Madrapore that we saw. So I'm just throwing that out there right now, because I have started to see some articles mount about that, and that's not to take away from any about that discussion. It's just, let's also talk about Madrapore, what we got, and what that means for the greater Marvel Cinematic Universe, or at least in the confines of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So Madrapore, Reno, we got to see that there's a low town, a high town, and it smells like acid.
Smells like.
So, what did you think of Madrapore?
So, honestly, I didn't know much about Madrapore until after this episode.
Correct.
Like I like they said Madrapore. I'm like, okay, well, that's just a random place. I don't know anything about it. And then after I watched a couple of videos, and I'm like, okay, all right, now it's all starting to come together, you know.
Yeah.
But I was really surprised. I knew this girl was going to be in it, but I was really surprised that she showed up in this early in it. Honestly, I figured she was going to be like a late cameo or something.
And you're talking about Sharon Carter, correct?
Yes. I couldn't think of her name.
It's cool to have Madrapore as an existence just because, I mean, there's a lot. It's an intimidating place. We've seen bits and pieces of Lowtown. We've seen bits and pieces of Hightown, but we've yet to see the person pulling the strings of this sinister location, the Power Broker. And I'm not going to get too overly jazzed about this. Remember, this is the Falcon Winter Soldier. I've learned from my mistakes of WandaVision, and I'm not going to get souped up. But
He's not going to jump down that rabbit hole yet.
But I would be remiss not to mention one of the biggest connections outside of outside of all things happening right now to the fictionalized country of Madrapore. And that is, there is an X-Men who spent a good chunk of time in this place, and his name is Logan, also known as Wolverine. So I am not saying that we are getting X-Men, that we're getting a Logan, that we're getting a Wolverine, that we're getting anything like that. I'm just saying there are a lot of breadcrumbs that continued on from WandaVision about how mutants can come to be in this world. And 20 vials of super soldier serum when we've only seen 8 people with it. A man that could be harvested for blood back in America to help create these things. Granted, the scientist that brought about this is dead. But, spoiler alert.
Oh, yeah, by the way, that happens.
But, like, it just seems like, you know, if someone was hidden, Sharon proves that, right? If someone was to be hidden and not be aware of it, they're on Madrapore. So, yes, it'd be great if someone popped up. Again, this is not me saying that we're getting the X-Men, Wolverine, or anything like that. I'm just saying the X-Men have a tie to this, and Marvel continuously punches us in the gut with, hey, about those X-Men, they're not here yet, but just letting you know, we're doing a lot of winking.
We're going to keep... It's like that old man in that Geico commercial.
Should have been
dolly.
quicker.
He's like, oh, you got to be quicker than that.
It really is. At this point, I said it a little bit in WandaVision, or I think I almost made like the definitive claim of like, they can't have included this much stuff and not like given us anything. That would be too cruel. Okay, Marvel's cruel, and they're just doing this to mess with us.
They are absolutely like the kid with a magnifying glass over a bunch of ants.
But they're doing this on purpose. But Madrapore was very cool. So, Baron Zemo. Dude had 1 episode out of 3 so far, and he is by far one of the most immediately interesting characters.
Oh, absolutely.
On Disney Plus right now. He
plays all of his part to a absolute T.
You hate him immediately, and then at times you're like, but I do kind of like him, and then he'll do something else. You're like, this little turd, man. Like, this guy is crap.
This guy's a jerk. And then he turns around and shows up and they're like, hey, what's up?
He's one of those people that while he feels like he's in control, wavers back and forth between being irritating beyond all belief to, oh, you know, he actually does have a little bit of charm to him. You saw it on the plane ride, right? He bounced between being very open and, as the kids say, woke, to like the nuances of Marvin Gaye's music and what it was like trying to convey. But at the same time, stole Bucky's journal and is just intentionally messing with him.
Yeah. And especially when he first walks in and sees him and he starts spitting off.
Starts doing the code words.
The brainwashing code words.
Yeah, though.
And I'm like, oh snap.
the rusted. Let's go. Let's move on to this right quick. So speaking of Zemo, we can't go from Zemo without covering this one next. At the end of this episode, Ao from Wakanda shows up.
From Wakanda.
She has been keeping tabs. It's either keeping tabs on Bucky or keeping tabs on Zemo. And now I think there's 2 interesting questions here. Are they keeping track of Bucky in general? Or did they start keeping track of Bucky when they realized he broke out Zemo? Or were they always keeping track of Zemo and now they've caught on? Because I think if they were tracking Bucky, then I think this means that potentially Bucky might be working to rectify a demon himself, and that's helping Zemo get out to help their problem, but also because this is a prime opportunity for him to hand over to Wakanda. Could be completely wrong. Episode 4 will give potentially a better understanding of what his relationship still is with Wakanda.
Yep.
But Reno, do you think ultimately? So Wakanda doesn't forget. Clearly,
no.
This dude killed our king.
Wakanda is very vengeful.
This dude killed our king, and we'd like to have a word with him. is more
People
or less
don't forget.
They don't. So. And this goes back to something that we talked about in episode when we were reacting to the first episode. It is so bittersweet to have this while not having Chadwick Boseman still alive.
Oh, I know.
Because it would have been so easy, and you assume it probably would have happened to have whenever Wakanda makes their move in the late stages of the Falcon and Winter Soldier, that T'Challa would be there as the one kind of like the special cameo kind of moment of, oh my gosh,
like, hey, what are you doing with Zemo? Like,
or your cup, it's time to make amends. It's sort of like that, like bring it back. Yeah. It's so like it's just so easy to write up that, like, again, we talked about it in episode 1 of like how it just didn't seem fair to have Zemo's story, to have this continuation of Civil War without having Black Panther present. It's nice though that they can still have an entity of Wakanda present in this, because it just doesn't make sense to continue Zemo's story without having some kind of collision course with his connection to Wakanda.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes sense for Bucky too, the White Wolf. You want to see kind of what his connection still is to Wakanda, because he did spend some time there. It seemed to be a very helpful therapeutic thing for him, more so than a therapist yelling at him in America. But Reno, do you think Wakanda becomes an ongoing issue in this, or do you think we'll see them potentially for like the next episode or two, and then they're probably done for the series?
I think they're gonna. I don't think they're gonna be the main point. Like I think they may be a hit or miss. Like they may be in this next episode for a little bit and then disappear for a little while, and then they might show up again in later episodes, right? So I it's hard to say at this point, but I don't think they're going to be in it a lot.
Do you think Zemo ultimately ends up in Wakanda's possession?
At some point, maybe, but I don't think indefinitely.
Yeah, I don't think so either. People like him, they always finds ways to get out.
That's right.
Watch Zemo be the power broker.
I can believe it.
I don't think it's going to happen, but it just seems like Zemo's too much in the know of things. And I would not be surprised if somehow releasing the super soldier serum was part of his piece of, his Rube Goldberg to get out of prison, to confront Bucky and do whatever he needs to do to finish off another super soldier and just go about, getting rid of whatever remnants are left of things. I don't think that'll happen. I think I'm going down a rabbit hole there. But Zemo is up to no good right now. He seems very quick on the fly, and he seems like he's very well connected. So we'll see. But Reno, thank you so much for chatting with me about the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, episode 3.
Yeah.
Power Broker. Alburo, man, thank you so much for coming back and resubscribing. We appreciate you, buddy. And we hope all of you have a good night, day, afternoon. Please feel free to like and subscribe if you've enjoyed the nerdy crap we've been saying. Ha ha!
What year is it?
And we will be back. We will be back next week to discuss episode 4 and all of its glory and goodness. So yeah, bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Dun 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 dun. I feel like I kind of went ESPN there at the end. Da-na-na, da-na-na, da-na-na. I was kind of going for an Avengers vibe for a minute, and then like all of a sudden it's like na-na-na, na-na-na. EA.
Not top 10.
The Avengers, get in the game. Peace and hugs and kisses and wishes and all that stuff. Bye. Wakanda never forgets.